Then Natalia is a neuroscientist turned solopreneur. She's been working on the ontology of value test. That's some R&D that she did. Very interesting personality test. I think a lot of people have taken it already, which is very pertinent to business today, and also extremely active in the social media. So there you go, Natalia.
Thank you so much, Hannes, for the opportunity to speak today. And well, we have Halloween season, so I took it as a challenge to scare you to death today, just to keep the vibe. So let's hope that works. All right. What the future is in the job market is an open question. As we will see in the later part of the presentation, there is no one answer, and also no one really knows. Even the biggest minds on the planet actually highly disagree on what's going to happen next, and if AI is the opportunity or rather it's a major pitfall for the humanity and it's a trap. It's an open question. So if someone says that they are confident 100% that they know what the scenario, like coming scenario in the job market will be, then I don't think it's true. I don't think anyone knows for sure. And today I will share certain assumptions and what I can conclude based on assumptions I took and what to my mind the probable scenario is. But obviously nothing is set in stone, and it's just a prediction, and I cannot tell you the confidence rate. So of course I'm happy to also hear your opinions and what your gut feeling tells you and what your predictions are. So well, I hope there will be an interesting discussion after this talk. All right. Just briefly about me, I came from the natural sciences. I was studying at the University of Warsaw. I graduated from 3 master programs in physics, in mathematics, and in psychology. And during my studies, I developed interest in studying human brain and human mind. That's why I started a PhD program in computational neuroscience. But then after completing my PhD, I walked away from academia, not from science, but from academia. The science and academia relate to each other more or less like a religion and a Catholic Church. So I guess you see the joke. So I still feel like I'm a scientist, but outside of the academic system. And now I'm analyzing the job markets. And so sometimes I get questions, well, why did you leave a discipline as noble and as challenging and as fascinating as neuroscience to study something so mundane as like a job market? And actually the question bugs me because to my mind, actually what I do right now is much more complex and much harder than what I used to do in neuroscience. And here is why. So when you study human brain or any other biological system, you have certain degree of uncertainty, right? So you have your measurement, such as neuroimaging techniques, and you have on the other side, you have psychometric tests or measures to diagnose human conditions, such as, let's say, autism. And all these measurements are associated with certain degree of uncertainty, but you can measure it, right? So once you do scientific studies, obviously the more complex the studies, the more variables you have, the more complex the variables become, the more uncertainty associated with the outcome, but still you can assess what the degree of uncertainty is. But the problem with the job market is that in the job market, we have uncontrolled uncertainty. So once we try to predict where the job market will go, we have to struggle with lack of knowledge about the future events. So we live in times of globalization where the economic situation in different parts of the world is very tightly connected. And there are thousands of variables all across the globe that influence. It's almost a butterfly effect. They influence each other, and the global dynamic shapes based on like this very delicate balance in the economy in different parts of the world. And also what we also experience is the black swan events. So actually Nassim Taleb is a researcher and speaker, great mind of our times, who wrote this best-selling book, The Black Swan. I can highly recommend this book to you. And it's all about the highly improbable events that happen once in a while and they change the game. And a perfect example would be the pandemic from 2020. That was highly improbable event that happened and changed the job market forever. Well, it accelerated the processes that were already happening. So like going toward hybrid jobs and more flexible types of employment, et cetera, et cetera. So this would probably happen naturally, but the pandemic like accelerated the process by a decade or two. So this is just an example of an event that we cannot really predict that has a major impact on the dynamic in the job market. And we don't know what happens next, right? And the upgrade in the capabilities of AI that happened over the past few years was also, I would also classify it as a black swan event, because for decades AI was laughable, right? It was supposed to be that almost like a toy, like another dog, just digital, right? So to something to pet, something that is just way simpler and stupider than us. And all of a sudden, ChatGPT today, according to official research, already has an IQ of over 155, so or 150. So it's already the level of intelligence, verbal and mathematical intelligence, is way higher than the average human. So this was unexpected. This came out of nowhere almost. Like, so there was a major qualitative shift in the AI technology. So that's why it's extremely hard to predict in the long run how the job market will shape, because we don't know how many black swan events we'll experience in the next 10-15 years. So we can only guess, but we can always get surprised, and then the whole game starts anew and we have to make predictions all anew. So we have to always be careful about how we envision the future. And when we talk about the Silicon Valley, so I'm surprised that there is actually no consensus on how the AI will shape our future. And there is the whole range of opinions, all from extreme pessimism to extreme optimism. And examples of extremely pessimistic minds, Gawdat and Eliezer Yudkowsky, are quite skeptical about AI, and almost they have catastrophic visions about the future of the humankind, and they point to existential threat of AI. So it's on extremely pessimistic side. We have more balanced views from some Altman or Elon Musk, who are more into this neutral position where, well, it's good to use AI. AI is a great tool, but it requires very strict compliance and intellectual property rights and all the other regulations to make sure that it doesn't get out of control. And we have also some of the big minds of the Silicon Valley actually on extremely optimistic side of things, like Mark Andreessen, who wrote an article that was almost like a poem to on behalf of AI some time ago. And it's basically he's like, well, this is the biggest opportunity of our times. What are you fearing from? Is actually it's a great opportunity. Let's just milk it as much as we can. It just improves our quality of life so much. I don't understand all this buzz on the media. It's just stupid. And Mark Zuckerberg also, I think he's like extremely on the extreme optimistic side of the equation as well. So, well, if it gives us more opportunity, let's just do whatever we can. Let's just create all the possible applications of AI, and let's live in the brave new world where AI is our daily life. So why do these opinions differ so much? Well, now talking a little bit as a neuroscientist from that scientific point of view, the problem with AI is that, well, at this moment, it's still under human control. But the problem is that AI evolves much faster than the human brain in general. So, and just to give you some little introduction, AI and the way the neural networks and like these multi-layer neural networks that are the basis for today's LLMs and also other models, generative models, it's all inspired by the human brain. So the architecture of the human brain was the original inspiration to create those tools. And just as an example, classic example, like here on this picture, you can see what the wiring within visual cortex of a monkey is. And these pieces here on this picture are actually groups of neurons. So they are like tiny pieces of visual cortex. So you can see how complex the visual cortex of the monkey is. And so each one of these modules is also a family of neurons in itself. I just put a picture of monkey cortex here because we just know the structure much better than the structure of human brain. You know, mostly because monkeys conveniently don't speak English, so they cannot protest when we stick electrodes in their brains. So that's why. So based on this architecture, we created the convolutional neural networks to represent like the properties of a visual system and do the visual image recognition. So the inspiration was taken from what we know about the visual system in living organisms like monkeys. But the difference is that, well, the learning within the network is different. So our learning mechanism, humans, is the so-called Hebbian learning. You probably heard this phrase, cells that fire together, wire together. So if we have two cells that connect through a synaptic cleft, then more often they fire together, then the synapse gets stronger and the transmission of the electric signal between synapses gets stronger. And that's when the connection, so the brain actually understands that this connection is important in this particular process, and connectivity gets stronger between these two cells. But this is a slow process, right? Because synaptic transmission is also probabilistic, because there are some quantum effects happening at the synapses. So it has to happen multiple times that the connection goes through the particular synapse so that it starts getting stronger. It won't happen immediately. It will happen only over time, when the statistics actually shows that this is important connection. This learning happens cell to cell. So it's just one cell versus one cell, and then the connection gets stronger. So it's like restricted in speed of learning and it's restricted in spatial reach. And at the same time, AI is almost unconstrained in terms of how it can learn. So the simplest mechanism that is typically used for convolutional neural networks and many other types of networks is so-called backpropagation. So it's in supervised learning, when you have the outcome that does not comply with what you expected in the experiment, then you update the weights in the network. And if it is, then you also update the weights in the network. And the whole network gets updated many layers backwards. So the learning happens at every single trial, every single time we have an outcome of a prediction, the learning happens, and it happens throughout the whole network. So it's much faster and it's much more complex, and it's actually the whole network is rewiring much faster. So in that sense, well, even if the starting point human brain was much more complex, then because of the learning mechanism that are almost unconstrained in AI, it can actually learn faster and at some point gain access to certain features that human brain doesn't have access to. I have something in the chat.
I was just commenting. I think that's really interesting. That's all.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so just that was like a computational neuroscience 101 first semester. So now you know what the problem is. So the problem is that we cannot, it's biologically impossible for us to catch up to the speed of learning of AI. It's just a property of silicon-based intelligence that is just learning faster, unfortunately.
Natalia, sorry, I wanted to just add a comment here, is that it might even be worse than that. The human brain has the prefrontal cortex, it has the amygdala, you have issues with genes, hormones, all of these things that sort of hamper humans.
Talk scary. Let's make it scary. Yeah, we have so many more problems. Yeah, that AI doesn't have. AI doesn't have a monthly period, right? AI doesn't have moods. AI doesn't have a mother-in-law, right? Like AI doesn't. Yeah, indeed, we have so. Exactly, fear, response, shame. Indeed. Sassy is asking: is the backpropagation reinforcing the connection? Well, yeah. So basically, that's the idea, that in supervised learning, if the network succeeds in giving the response that you expected, then the connections that were in that particular configuration get stronger, and if not, then you have to rewire them backwards a little bit. So the whole network is rewiring a little bit every single time you have an iteration, and it lasts for as long as you won't get some equilibrium where it's actually optimal. Yeah. Okay, so now how to predict the evolution of the job market in times of AI? Is it even possible? Well, so first question I think is good to answer ourselves. And again, there is no one answer to this question. It's an open question. What is work? What is work to you? What does it mean? Maybe someone has an answer to the question. Maybe you thought about this and you have your own definition of what work actually is. So I will give you my own definition, but I was thinking maybe someone has an idea. Effort in exchange for outcome. Okay, well, yeah, that's a very, I would say, abstract. And what would you say in context of human work? because work, I get it. Like even as a law of physics, right? Work means something, like effort in exchange for outcome. It's true. When we talk about job market, Alejandro says the contribution that gives value to your, yeah, exactly. Value to your time, effort, experience, and intentions. Vish is saying set of activities to achieve something meaningful and you get compensated for it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Oops. So the work is a transfer of value between people, absolutely. And also it's catering to somebody else's needs, right? So when you work, you solve somebody else's problem. It could be like existential, really crucial problem, right? Someone is just injured and has to be operated and you're just saving someone's life. Or it can be like just a need that is more of a someone's quirk, you know, someone just wants to have a new flavor of ice cream, so you're trying to create a new flavor of ice cream that doesn't exist yet, or maybe someone just needs a massage, whatever. Like work can be any arbitrarily, it can be of different weight of, I have hard time describing this, but I think you know what I mean. It can be either crucial for someone's existence, or it could be just exchanging favors, right? So it's
yeah, and one way to think of it is atomic value swaps. It's sort of the smallest thing that you can swap between people.
Great. And Rahim is saying create value with work, create value for you. Exactly. There is an exchange in it. Is a contribution to society. Yes, but society is a group of people, right? So it has to benefit somebody. It could benefit a group of people, or it could benefit one person. And so work overall, like that's the basic meaning. And yes, you can directly cater to someone specifically, like, okay, you create a service, you sell the service to a particular person, or you could work also indirectly on behalf of society. For instance, as an employee of public institutions getting supplied from taxpayers' money, and you don't meet your beneficiary face to face. You just have to hope, like you have to trust that your work will be distributed through the society, through the institution that you work for. So, and obviously depending on human like motivations, like some people function better in a system where they have this client provider type of connection, and some people, like I am the type of person. I think many people here, especially founders, freelancers, they usually prefer to be independent and meet their beneficiary. And some people actually function better in the system, employer-employee. So like there is no better or worse here, just people are different, and system actually like job market caters to both groups. So it's equally important work. It's just saying that it could be either direct or indirect, but there's always somebody at the other side. So now the problem. So the problem we have now in the job market in terms of AI is that while the productivity starts growing exponentially, our human needs are not actually growing exponentially, right? So that there is only so much we can. Helen is asking, will you share the slides? Would you like to get the slides? I think my talk will be published on YouTube, but if you'd like to get my slides, of course I can send it to you. If you connect with me on LinkedIn, I will send it to you, no problem. The whole talk will be published as a video, sure. Okay, sure. Yeah, so the point is we experienced outburst of productivity. Productivity is going ballistic right now. And if you look at the data for how the number of patents, AI-related patents per year grows, now in 2013 is actually going exponential. So we have exponential growth of AI-related patents, so intellectual property and invention related to AI, original invention, plus AI is creating software that creates new software, right? So now we can write bots that write their own bots, not only doing the actual work on behalf of people like directly, but also creating new software, like solving new problems. And there are even companies now that their business model is to create autonomous agents creating new companies. So basically they use AI to create wallets and portfolios of companies operating completely like beyond the human intervention. So they just test hundreds and hundreds of business models online and just eliminate those that don't work. So it's all running by itself, fully, like from cover to cover, or how to call it. Yeah, so this is now possible. That's why the productivity also goes up exponentially. And of course, we still have Moore's law that is still actual, even after 40 years, I think, since it was first formulated. So according to this law, around 2 years, we get double computational power, right? The computational power grows by factor 2, and it's still relevant today. So it's not only that the AI gets more intelligent and can actually reiterate and rebuild itself, but also the computational power grows, so it can calculate faster. So altogether, all these changes lead to very fast growing productivity. But what about human needs? Of course, we would like to have iPhone 20.0, right, instead of 15. Like, we would like to have better, more organic food. We would like to have a cheaper transportation so that we can go to vacation more often. We would like to still upgrade our quality of life, but the point is there's only so much you can do in terms of how much pleasure you can distribute to human brain, because we have this natural constraint that our brains, they have a limited level of dopamine that they can consume, right? So today's mental health crisis, to a large extent, is already caused by this overflow of dopamine that we feel every day. So our social media notifications, short text messaging, like little pleasant stimuli that we are basically flooded with every day, they cause just a overflow of information, and just that makes our mental health break down. So how many new pleasant stimuli can we still take to function properly, right? So the problem is, like, human needs will always grow because this is a part of human nature, but you cannot inflate them at exponential rate the same as productivity grows. And this obviously creates a problem. Oh, thank you, Roy. Oh yeah, Roy just shared some interesting material about exponential growth in terms of AI. Thank you so much, Roy. Yeah, I'll download in a moment. Thank you so much. Okay, so this creates obvious gap, right? So there's a growing gap between human needs and the level of productivity that we have in the market. So the level of labor we can distribute through the job market. So what will be the future, right, given this problem? Because there's obvious discrepancy between the productivity and what is the range of problems we are actually going to solve with it. And obviously today, in 2023, there are still like very fundamental problems around the globe that should be solved, like hunger in like developing countries. Sorry, I didn't want to say third world. Developing countries. And there's a like large range of problems that still absolutely have to be solved. But once the quality of life in developing countries will just reach the level in developed countries, well, what's the next level, right? What's the next level of needs that we have to cater to? Like this problem will definitely become bigger and bigger in time. And the question is, like, what about this extensive productivity? What will be the role of humans in this new system in which we have such productive AI? So now I'd like to tell you a little bit about my predictions on where the job market might go next. Again, this is just my point of view and just a loose prediction. So there might be multiple scenarios. It's just the most from my perspective, and given what I know about the job market and my point of view, this is the most probable scenario. But you might have a completely different opinion, and it's perfectly fine, because again, this is just an educated guess. You might have a very different point of view, and I would be most happy to hear it. So I'm just going to share my bold predictions, and it's just an educated guess. So today we already experienced massive layoffs following the increased productivity, and this is a bit of an open secret, because in the media you will not hear anywhere in the major media outlets that AI is taking jobs. Or at least public TV will not talk about it, because obviously not. Just reading about what's happening and just talking with the insiders, I think that many of the layoffs actually happen because of the increased AI, productivity increased by AI, unfortunately. This process might accelerate in the future. And obviously there will always be jobs, especially in tech, for people who are highly experienced and talented and know well how to work with AI. That's why it's good to be around Hannes, because he knows how to conquer and how to tame AI and how to make it work for you. So that's we are in a perfect place. But the problem is that there is a knowledge gap, right? So the jobs that were traditionally the junior positions that were allowing like fresh employees to learn on the job, for instance, do small programming tasks so that they can learn the process to become more senior employees. Now these jobs are taken by AI. So the problem is that there is a knowledge gap between students and employees. So there is like more expectation now for the fresh employees to perform. So that's this is the problem. So actually AI is mostly taking the junior positions, not senior positions, but there will be layoffs. And Flaticon had a lot of graphic icons to illustrate layoffs, and I thought they are all cute. I don't want to, laugh at layoffs. I also laid off myself from my first PhD. So if you ever experienced a layoff, I experienced that too. So I know how it feels perfectly well. Okay, in my view, the next step might be just a structural shift in the job market. So now, the job market is mostly organized in public institutions, and there are private employers, and the job market is mostly employment based. But we already observing a shift toward project-based work and moving more toward the model based on independent contractors. And you can see it already for maybe a decade. The big tech companies also start shifting, like Meta already did many years ago, started working with independent agencies. There's these umbrella agencies hiring subcontractors independently. And so the idea is that, well, in times of this like highly dynamic job market, you want to have mobile workforce. And in my view, there will be more solopreneurship, more project-based work, and also DAOs, so decentralized autonomous organizations that will bring together people to work on projects together, but in a form, like in a different setting, so that they don't have a common employer, but rather they are all equal and also take decisions together. So it's more like a decentralized network of contractors who can take projects together, but they are still independent. None of them like formally has a boss. They just have some portfolio of projects they've done before, and based on that, they can take next projects on board and qualify for next projects. And just to show you this figure more in detail, so up to this point, the way the job market used to work was this hierarchical system, right? There is a leader, there is an employer, there are managers behind and below, and there are workers on the bottom, right? It's a hierarchical system. What Helen is asking, so there will be more contractors than FTE. Again, this is my prediction. This is just the way I see it will likely happen, because I can see the shift already happening, that whoever can afford contractors actually prefers contractors, and it's just becoming more popular system. Like in the Netherlands, where I'm officially based, we have a system preventing working full-time as a contractor for one company. So if you are independent contractor, you're supposed to have at least 3 different clients, because it's like the Dutch government wants to prevent employees from being shifted out of employment on behalf of contract work without necessity. So the Dutch government is trying to combat this system, but I think in the long run there will be more contractors than employees. Of course, there are still professions where this is not possible, right? You cannot hire like medical doctors or surgeons as contractors and then hope that someone is available when you need them, right? So this is not going to be. And Roy is saying there are already many public companies, for instance. Yeah. That's the point. I'm tracking the job market, so I see this shift already happening, and it's been happening like across the board, many countries, some of the Catholic dioceses are doing the same. That's interesting. I didn't know. But but I look at it, this is a glass that is half full, half empty. Like, because on the one hand, you would think, well, being a contractor is not as safe as being an employee, but being a contractor, you can also have more freedom and be paid better. It just really depends how you navigate yourself. And in times of AI, I believe that like the increased productivity will also lead to better salaries and better, well, in terms of contract work, better rates per hour and better quality of life. So there will be more wealth to distribute among all of us. So I wouldn't be as worried about this scenario, honestly. It can be, and working for a decentralized autonomous organization can be also enjoyable because you always work with someone, you work with friends, so you can choose who you work with. So it's like working in an organization like now, but now you are in charge to choose who you want to work with, like on every given project. So there are many upsides to this system. And Helen is saying, then for employees view the benefits will not be as good as before. Well, you can compensate these benefits with also paying more per hour. It's like, it's always a balance of the two, of the safety and freedom. That's always the very subtle balance. Yeah, exactly. You can get a premium over FTEs and then decide your own benefits. Exactly. And some of the decentralized autonomous organizations that are already existing, they basically take aside a portion of the earnings, and then they have similar benefits as today's employers. So basically the whole community basically decides what to put this money into, and it could be your like sickness benefits. Yeah, so when you're ill, you can get paid from that pool of money they basically set aside for like special occasions. So I know already like the DAOs that work this way. So they basically take care of creating their own benefits within the DAO. And as a DAO member, you have a right to vote on the benefits. Okay, there is such a discussion. I love it, but I have to proceed with the presentation because we have another speaker as well. So I will proceed, and we can also, after Vidal's talk, we can also discuss again because sorry, but I have to carry on. So next, my prediction that next, well, there will be some recession period. So there will be some period of high unemployment because again, there will be this growing gap between productivity and human needs. So there will be, I think this is just unavoidable because there's always, like historically, governments and public institutions were always updating and just catching up slowly with the innovation. So there's always like a decade or more delay between the officials actually. Just look at the blockchain market, right? It's been what, like 14 years since it exists, and like there's still no regulation around it. So this is how slow it goes. So we can expect that before the governments will even start working on regulating and the situation in the job market, it will be like the next few years might be messy. That's my prediction. So we might have to go through a period of high unemployment and mass. Unfortunately, this is like a major transition, qualitative transition in the job market. So unfortunately, this might happen. But you're in the right place. I mean, Bay Area, Hannes is the like lighthouse, to have on your like to have a sight on, and so like you're in a good place. You should not be among all the groups in the job market. I think you should be the least worried, honestly. So don't be worried. Don't worry about this. Okay, then I think that like what always happens is this delusion period, right? So the government will start to try to catch up. So first there will be this delusion period that, hey, we have recession, it's just recession, it always happens, enough, and there's no big deal around it, and then let's just create a few million of these like spurious, unnecessary jobs, also known as bullshit jobs, just to cover this gap in the job market, and it will be all fine because the recession will go, and then we are all fine again. So there will be this delusion first, but then obviously it will soon turn out that this is actually a long-lasting change in the job market, and the dynamic changed for good, and this is not a solution, and the gap between the like needs and the productivity will keep on growing. Like it might lead to this great resignation 2.0 and like global indifference. Like people will be, hey, I either have a boring, unnecessary, spurious job that nobody benefits from at all, or I'm unemployed because I cannot really compete against AI. So why do I even work in the first place? And people will be, just why not spend your days in metaverse and just play games, and who cares? Like I don't make any difference anyway. So let's just stop working, and there will be just a major indifference at some point. And then at some point we will finally get to the point where, hey, we have to create some system of public support, because the market changed so much that we have a great wealth right now created by AI, but we have to redistribute this wealth, because otherwise the AI basically potentially is the differences between the wealthy and the poor, because whoever had the best access to resources before with AI can even like accelerate growth, and whoever didn't have access to internet, didn't have good education beforehand, will like fall behind even more. So there will have to be some public system of redistributing the wealth, and at some point we will have to experience this, that some form of universal basic income is actually necessary. And then next to that, what I believe would happen is this voluntary value-based work, where you are actually incentivized to take projects and commit value to the job market and be paid extra. So if you want to live lavish lifestyle, if you want to have a villa in LA, if you want to have a vacation in Thailand every now and then you have to do extra, right? You cannot just sit with your arms crossed. And so there will be some motivation to work, but at the same time, you don't have that existential fear anymore that if you cannot compete with AI, then you will be homeless, you will end up under the bridge, right? So this is what I think will happen in the end within the next 15 years, maybe 20 years, maybe 10. It's hard to predict the timing precisely, but I think this is just the most logic scenario that's going to happen given what's already like what the trends are. Well, I also have to say, like, since it's Halloween, I think that there's a little bit of a threat there, because there might be also phase number 7 falling into the abyss for the whole humankind if we are not strategic enough about how we play the game as a species and how we organize the job market as a species. So I have a little anecdote for you. I'm not sure if you've ever heard about the Calhoun's experiments on mice utopia in the 60s. So actually it's a famous story. Calhoun was a researcher who studied mice behavior and like crowd and group behavior in mice. And in his famous experiment in the 60s, he basically created something that he called mice utopia. So it was a system of cages. It was a perfect environment that was supposed to cater to about 2,000 mice. And he wanted to see what the group dynamic and what the behavior in the group will be when mice are actually left alone in a perfect environment. So they have no predators, they have unlimited supply of food and water, they are free to go anywhere they want. Like, he wanted to see the dynamic, just observe day by day without making much assumption, like many assumptions, just see how the society of mice will organize itself. And actually here on this picture, this is Calhoun. You can see from perspective like how big this cage is. So it was indeed like big enough to accommodate about 2,000 individual mice. So yeah, so he ran his experiment. He planted 4 male and 4 female mice and left them alone, and then left the place and started observing what's happening. And then initially the population started growing as expected, but at some point some strange behavior started happening. So the mice, after many generations of mice that didn't have any natural threat and any problems, any inconvenience, any scarcity in their environment, after many generations, the population started descending instead of ascending. And the reason was because the mice just stopped, like they lost interest in other mice. They became only interested in themselves, in grooming and sleeping and eating, and just lost interest in mating. So the population actually descended and the mice died out after like a year of the experiment. And he created this experiment a few times because he couldn't believe what he saw at first. So he repeated the experiment 4 more times, the same effect. So the point being, in the absence of inconvenience, you also lack motivation. It makes me think, what will happen to humanity in times where we have everything, when AI solves all our problems, when we don't have to work, when we don't have to worry, when we don't have to worry about our food, our roof over our heads, because AI just supplies everything. And just sometimes like this experiment makes me think, what next? Like, we have to create some level of inconvenience, because this is how the mother nature made us, right? That we have to have certain degree of inconvenience to keep on going. That's just a very basic law of nature. And in this situation, the question that comes to mind also is, where is Netflix? Like, why didn't Netflix make a documentary about this experiment? That's something that would be valuable to do. Anyways, okay, so just to let me wrap up this talk by giving you a few pieces of advice that I think might be helpful, because, well, you might be thinking, well, if AI is better at counting, programming, writing, like it becomes faster and cheaper than me in pretty much everything I do at work, then what can I do to improve my chances in the job market? So obviously it's like a big topic. I could talk for hours, but I would like to give you a few pieces of advice that are like easy to implement today and will immediately increase your chances in the job market. And they don't require any studying. So first, if I was asked, what is one talent? If I could keep one talent I think I have and just let go of anything else, I would leave this one. It's like the best talent I believe to have is to see talent in others. Because think about it, so many people are like in the wrong positions where they don't create enough value, as much value as they could, because they cannot express their natural talents. There is so much value to be made from just telling people what they are good at, right? And so from this like difference in value, you can create so much value for the job market from just telling people what they're good at. And so few people do that in fact. So just a homework after this lecture. If you tell 3 people around you what do you think they're good at and talented at, you will see how much value you can create by that. So you can create that value already today and keep on doing it for a lifetime. And you can see how much valuable you immediately become in the job market. Secondly, this is obviously, this sounds preachy, but like I cannot stress enough how important it is to just keep like your nerves under control, because like the longer I live, the more I have a feeling that the whole job market is like almost like a nervo game, and you're just trying to keep your nerves down and just peacefully go through the day, and the whole rest of the world is trying to get on your nerves, right? And you have to learn how to develop this natural sense of peace on your mind and just not let anyone work on your emotions to the point where you can create that negative response. So really, and being kind, I cannot stress enough how important this is. And it's so often the case that people who are not the best at their work, they are not the top candidates, but they are just kind. Like they are hired instead of the top candidates just because they are safer bet for the team, right? So like being kind in general, like it also allows you often to leapfrog and find shortcuts in the job market and get hired for positions where some other candidates might have more experience, but you will be still the best candidate for the employer just because of your personality. So working on that and on being positive and just not letting others make you nervous or lose control over your emotions, it's so important. Next, integrity. And integrity, it's actually often misunderstood, because what many people think is that integrity is being integral with the team, that your values have to align with the values of your coworkers. But it's not true. Actually, integrity, in fact, is being consistent with yourself. So having personal standards and having rules that you will keep in every situation. So people who work with you, they know that you're predictable. You have to just be predictable, have your own rules and have your own values that don't necessarily have to align with everybody else around you. The idea is that people know what your values are, and that's why they can predict how you will behave in a situation. And being that consistent and with yourself and communicating this is super important. Because what employers want is someone who is predictable, someone who is not a loose cannon, someone who has a codex, like a code, and always sticks to that. So that's something. If maybe you never even worked on your personal standards, many people didn't. Like, it's good to sometimes sit down and just write down your own honor code, right? So what your rules are, and just do that homework and just spend an evening just thinking about your standards. And lastly, become unique. Just combine a few of your talents or skills together that guarantee that you have that unique edge in the job market. So for instance, like there are so many neuroscientists in the world, right? at least in the Society for Neuroscience, there are at least 100,000 neuroscientists active today and registered, right, in the association. So it's literally hundreds of thousands of people worldwide. But how many of them use their knowledge in neuroscience to analyze the job market? Like very few, right? Like I don't know anybody else who does this full time. So I might be the only one or one of very few people who do this. So that's just an example. And you have to think about, okay, what can because then if you skillfully combine a few different skills or pieces of knowledge, then you don't have to be a world master in each one of them, right? It's just the fact that you have that unique combination of skills that already makes you special and makes you valuable. So everyone has to do their homework, right? To think about their skill sets and what can I combine from all my past that makes me unique in the job market. So everyone has to do this homework for themselves. But I think it's highly valuable. And even if you're like in very narrow discipline, there's definitely something that makes you stand out. You just have to know very well what that is and communicate it to others in the job market clearly. And like, what about the competitive edge? Well, we can talk about competitive edge on multiple levels. So one level is your unique profile skills, your resume, and also so that means what you can achieve as an individual. Okay, so for instance, I can program in Python. I can write essays about the job market. I can do this. I can do that. So this is this level first level. So individual level that describes what you can contribute in a project just as an individual. But there's also second level, which is, well, how do you operate in a team? What value can you create to the team when you work with other people around you directly? And there's a third level. So what is your overall contribution to society? In which tribes and work environments do you function best and create the most value for, right? So there are different levels of description, and you have to think like on multiple levels. Okay, how do I create value when there's just me and my laptop and nobody else? How do I create value where there are other people around me? How do I create value in a broader context in a society? And I actually, just a few words about the test I'd like to share with you, because I like to make you a gift today. So a few words about the tool thank you, Jan. Thank you so much for coming. Jan is very busy. He works with Nobelists, so like he's super smart. So thank you, Jan, for coming to our talk. So just a few words about the test that I'd like to share with you. Like I was working on it for years and years, and it's meant to help you define your competitive edge on these higher levels. So the levels higher than the level of your CV. So one level is that level of a team contribution. And we basically developed tests based on 8 different profiles as a team contributor or value builder in a team, and 8 different working environments that have different culture and different written and unwritten rules. And what this test is doing is basically taking 4 different types of variables related to your mind, relations, personality, values, and then it fits you onto 8 different roles in a team and 8 different work environments. And what you get on the output of this test is actually, we did a study in 17 countries, and then we developed norms for this test. So you will get a cheat sheet that shows you in percentiles where in a population you score. So where you score compared to the participants in our study. So you will see where your competitive advantage is, where in the bell curve you are. So it will show you clearly where you naturally create the most value in a society and in a team. And last words, last thing, like raise your hand if you ever had this existential crisis as a teenager, because I did. Like when I was 15 or 16, I had that coming of age problem that, hey, I didn't, oh yeah, thank you for raising your hand. So I had this existential problem. Hey, like one day, I'm not even a student yet, and I have to take this incredible effort to become an expert in something, to study, to like pull off all-nighters and just study and try hard to become good at something. And I will die one day anyway, so why would I even start putting effort, right? Like why? I mean, I was feeling so demotivated. It's like there's the end to all this, so why would I even enter this game? Maybe it's just better to just give up and just do something really simple, like without paying much effort, and just try to just go through life with no effort, because like, what's the ultimate goal of all of this? But then I was like, hey, this is not how it's supposed to be. Like, I have some cards in my hands. I have to play with them. I have to play my best. Don't answer too many questions about the ultimate goal of all this. Just do it. And then I went all in, and I started 3 different master programs, and I did my best ever since. And now we experience coming of age 2.0, right? Like, most of us are asking this question, hey, AI might be cheaper and faster in everything than I am. So what's my role in the society, right? Why would I pay effort? Like, why would I do all this if somebody else or something else can do it better? So we have to work through that again. But, you know, the good, like it's again, like it's a glass half full, half empty. But I would say we all went through this already in high school, right? So we will go through this again, because we just have to do the homework all again, and just work on ourselves and work on our motivation. And I have a positive attitude here. I think that each one of us can find just one more time, find motivation to be good at something and to deliver to other people. All right, so I'd like to share a few things with you. This is the access to the test. So if you'd like to take the test, you have 2 weeks to do so. It's free for you, just as a gift. I make it free. And if you have a friend whom you'd like to help as well, then you're free to share as well. Then this is my LinkedIn profile. I would cordially invite you to connect. It's always good to connect on LinkedIn and be in touch. And if you have some questions for me, I always answer through LinkedIn. So you're welcome. And there's one article I recently wrote about how to quickly and effectively network in San Francisco. So I think it's in general like relevant for anyone who visits a new city and tries to and aims to build a personal network. So I like to share this article with you as well. I think it's useful. And I noticed that some like technical minds often need help with networking. So I think if you read through this, you will be immediately much more efficient with networking. And we have a like free newsletter. Like me and my team at Ontology of Value, we release that newsletter once a month. So if you'd like to be in touch and get some interesting career advice once a month, then please subscribe. That's it. Yeah, so I've seen there was a lot of discussion in the chat, which is great. I couldn't follow for obvious reasons, but thank you so much. Oh, Sasi is asking, what's the Netflix documentary for the React experiment? Yeah, that's my question too. Where's Netflix? Netflix didn't make the documentary. That's my problem. So sorry, Sasi, but there is no document yet. But I think it's just perfect Netflix-ish subject. So yeah, I hope they make a documentary about it. Yeah. Okay, so thank you all. Again, you're welcome. Like, I hope you take the test, or you know someone who might benefit. And if you have any more questions for me, I'm always there for you on LinkedIn, and you can find me easily on social media. So most happy to answer your questions. And I know this talk was a bit bittersweet, but I still feel like it's more sweet than bitter, because at the end of the day, I think in the long run, we'll all benefit from this new productivity revolution. So it's just a matter of how. Thank you, Fabio. Thank you so much. Okay, so if you have more questions, thank you so much. Then I'm always there for you. Just find me and we can talk, okay?